My name is Bettina Swigger. I'm the CEO of Downtown SLO, and we have been having these calls now for 1 year. Hard to believe, but that is the truth. So in honor of that, I came into my office this morning to find that somebody had left me this mug, and it says, "I love meetings." And then on the back, it says, "About meetings." And then on the bottom, it says, "About even more meetings." And I think we can all agree that that is something that we have all learned to love over the course of the last year. So I want to just take a special moment to say thank you for all of your attendance at these meetings. I hope they are helpful. We try to keep them full of relevant information in a constantly changing environment. So good morning to you. Welcome to the Ides of March. Next slide, please. So our annual report, which we talked about last week on the call, is available now. We also have print copies available to you. So if you are interested in receiving a print copy, please email Cassidy at downtownslo.com and she can help get one coordinated to you. We're really pleased that this report is complete. It does cover our last fiscal year, which feels like it was a really long time ago, but we really felt like it was important to honor all of the work that was done by so many volunteers and committee members and board members and interns and staff. And we're excited about bringing back a lot of the programs that are in that report in the months to come. On the next slide, our board of directors met last week. Thanks to all of you for a very productive board meeting. And the elections were certified at last week's board meeting. So we have 2 new faces joining our board of directors. One is Jessica Russo with Flower House. She will be a great representative of our downtown restaurant community. And Stephen Patrick from Stephen Patrick Designs and the Blade Runner Salon and Day Spa will be joining us again. He has served on the board many times over the decades, and we're grateful to have him back. In addition, Fareed Shahid, Stephanie Stackhouse, and Mark Rossin were all re-elected to a second term. On the next slide, you can see that we have a new slate of officers who will be starting their term. And if you hit that slide, Pat, Rachel, there you go. I want to just say a special thanks to our wonderful past president, Pat Arnold, for his astonishing leadership over the past 2 years. He really has been a thought partner, and I just can't imagine having gotten through this past 2 years with anybody else at the home. So thank you, Pat. We're delighted that you're going to continue on the executive committee as past president, and we'll be welcoming our new board president, Laura Mullen from Humankind. So welcome, Laura. We also have a new vice president, Stephanie Stackhouse from SLO Yoga Center, and Carl Dudley will be continuing as treasurer, and Fareed Shahid will be continuing as secretary. So thanks to that, and we'll be looking forward to a lot of good work over our next board year of service, which starts April 1st. We were really grateful to receive a number of gloves from Trust Automation. We got 161 boxes, and we have distributed gloves to more than 100 businesses so far. We still have more. We got rid of several boxes over last week. We sent some out to First Five, providing daycare and childcare in the community, and also to Capslo for meal service at 40 Prado, but we still have more. So if you would like some free gloves, no cost to you, let us know, and also email Cassidy, or you can fill out the form, which is available on our website. On the next slide, I'm going to let Rachel take it away and talk a little bit about where we are in today's COVID reality.
Thank you, Bettina. So as of Friday, March 12th, we are still in the substantial red tier, moving in the right direction. We have 20,041 positive tests of COVID-19 in SLO County with 334 active cases. We are at 251 deaths in the county, and our thoughts go to their loved ones and families. We've added vaccinations onto this slide. This is the count of vaccinated people who have been vaccinated by SLO County Public Health. As that number continues to update and gets hopefully a little more clarity around maybe what other doses are being distributed in the county, we'll be sure to share that number. Testing is available, and it's really encouraged that people continue to get tested if they're asymptomatic and may have been exposed or symptomatic. And as for vaccine eligibility, you can learn more at recoverslo.org, and Don will be touching a little bit later on some of the new criteria for additional groups who are allowed to get vaccinated. With that, Bettina, I will turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel. It's great to see that number of vaccinated eclipse the number of infected. You may have heard the news that the American Rescue Plan, or ARP, there's another acronym for us to think about as we move farther into 2021, was signed into law, and those $1,400 direct relief payments started to go out over the weekend. I advise you to plan your marketing accordingly. People are going to be looking for ways to spend that money if they've been in a place where maybe they did not experience such hardship as other folks. And I know that my father, who lives on a fixed income, called me over the weekend and he said, I want to splurge on something. And he never wants to splurge on anything. So that's a pretty good indicator that there will be some stimulus that will be caused by this relief money, as well as some much needed relief from people who are truly suffering economically. There's more, there's $350 billion to help state and local governments. And I'm sure we'll be learning more about that in the weeks to come. And just another reminder that the Paycheck Protection Program is still open. So if you are looking for additional relief, you can sign up for that, and you are also eligible to do the forgiveness portion of the Paycheck Protection Program if you got a PPP loan before. We're going to ask Jim D'Antona from the Chamber to go into some more detail about what the ARP is a little bit later. So with that, let's go on to the next slide. And let's hear from our board liaison, Courtney Kino from Cal Poly. Good morning, Courtney. How are you today?
Good morning, Bettina. I'm pretty good. It's a good morning. My kids went off to school for the first time. So, but in terms of my report, I'd imagine that most of you saw some of the pictures and videos of students gathering in the streets over the weekend. And honestly, the extremely disappointing behavior that they displayed. As our Dean of Students and Greg Herman from the city have shared on this call before, both entities have been communicating regularly with students to remind them to avoid large gatherings and parties in connection with the St. Patrick's Day holiday. We are trying to remind the campus community, as you all are hearing from Dr. Penny Borenstein and many others, that we are not out of the woods yet in regard to this ongoing pandemic, and that we need each member of our community to recommit to practicing safe and healthy behaviors. And that includes abiding by all the university, county, and state guidelines. Cal Poly Police worked in close coordination with San Luis Obispo Police to respond to the gatherings, and any student that received a citation from any police agency will be held accountable through our Student Code of Conduct, which prohibits students from violating any local, state, or federal laws. So I wanted to address that first and then shift into our more COVID-related updates and our timeline. So today is the first day of finals, which are all virtual. Spring break begins this coming Monday, a week from today, March 22nd, and then the first day of classes for spring quarter is on March 29th. We did announce that our commencement ceremonies are going to be virtual. We're hoping that we're going to be able to offer some kind of in-person offering for students only who are our graduates, but that will depend on public health guidelines at the time. In terms of spring break, we are spending time and effort promoting staycations. So asking students not to travel if they can, and offering discounts on outdoor gear. We have our sort of outdoor store on campus, and then a lot of virtual programming and promotion of outdoor activities over that time. For any student that does not or does leave the area, they will be required to test, just like for this winter quarter, before they come back, once they arrive, and then every 3 days once they're back. We have a new dashboard to track all of our COVID statistics, and as soon as I'm done with my report, I'll post that in the chat. We have, since the beginning of our testing at Cal Poly, we've had 1,601 total positive tests, We currently have 8 people in isolation. We have no students in quarantine and 92 students in quarantine in place. And that's my report for this morning. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Courtney. I have a question about the testing as it relates to the rate of vaccination. As, say, Cal Poly employees and professors get vaccinated, and then ultimately students will start to get vaccinated, will Cal Poly be lessening the numbers of tests? Because I know Cal Poly's testing rate has really helped our county stay in good graces, if you will.
Yes. Yes, we are requiring that until further notice that students test every 3 days or at least twice a week, and that there are not plans right now to discontinue that. Students right now are not in an eligible category to get the vaccine. So until that time, we are maintaining the current course we're on. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think we'll probably learn more from the governor about, as vaccinations start to come out, maybe the testing will change. Maybe those metrics will change. Maybe Supervisor Ortiz can talk a little bit more about this too. I just do worry that if we don't have as much testing happening at Cal Poly, that might put our county in a precarious place.
Yeah, and to be honest, right now, the majority of our testing, so what the students are required to do every 3 days right now, does not count toward our county numbers.
Oh.
That is because of our transition to saliva testing. So there's 3 different types of testing that you can do, and our saliva surveillance testing is not contributing currently to our numbers that we're keeping the county at that better statistics in terms of tiers.
Thank you for clarifying that. I didn't realize that. So maybe other people on the call knew, but I love learning. I always learn something on these calls. So thank you for that. And I did want to touch on the St. Patrick's Day situation, not necessarily as it relates to Cal Poly, but last week our Food Beverage Services Committee met, and that's a group of the restaurant and bar owners for downtown. And not all of them were in attendance, but many of them were in attendance. And several of them reached the conclusion independently that they will be not opening early on Wednesday, on St. Patrick's Day. So we don't know if that applies to all of the restaurants downtown. But that was a conversation that happened at our Food Beverage Services Committee meeting last week. So I hope that's informative for everybody else on the call as well. And with that, let's move into our next speaker, Supervisor Ortiz-Legg. Thank you for being with us this morning. We appreciate you joining us every week. How's it going today?
It's great. I want to congratulate all the people that are now on your board, and what a great group you have there. I look forward to working with your incoming president as well, Ms. Laurel Mullen. She's a real asset to our community. And I also want to reach out to say kudos to Courtney, because I know it's always challenging, and the Cal Poly continues to, get ahead of these things, which are, things that happen on college campuses and amongst, but it's still such a great asset to our community. So thank you, Courtney, and to you and to your administration for all you're doing. I am happy to be here, and let's go to the next slide. It is, we still see things opening up more and more. So for those who haven't seen, the fact that we have food and agriculture, education and childcare, high-risk individuals all now getting shots. And I think that the feedback that I'm getting is that it seems that things are going pretty well overall. I know there's always those ones who aren't getting a call back or some confusion, but there seems to be a lot of vaccine coming into the county through various ways, not just to the county itself, but to our pharmacies and to some of the medical outlets. So, for example, the community health centers, which really helps with the food and agriculture people. So that's the next one. Oh, the high-risk individuals. I wanted to note on that. You'll have to look. It's interesting because I know that those folks that are, we call it either juvenile onset or type 1 diabetes, they're not on the list. But I think if you work with your physician, that possibly you can get in there. They really put on the adult onset diabetes as part of that list. But then you'll also see other people that are really known. And I've checked this list amongst other states, and it seems to be the same preconditions list of those disabilities, et cetera, that are eligible early on. So, but I do suggest if you feel that you are a high-risk individual, that reaching out to your physician may be a path forward for you if you're not didn't have your item on that list, your condition. Okay, next item. So the sports and the COVID, I guess that what came up on Friday, there was some conversations in regards to kids getting back out into the fields and then events happening. And so between the counties, particularly at our borders between us and Santa Barbara County, there was a little bit of discrepancy, but guidance came out Friday, and that is that stadiums must be kept at 20% capacity. Spectators must be members of the player's same household, and face coverings and social distance are required. And there are no indoor sports at this time, or spectators for indoor sports, I should say. So that's what's happening in that world. And that's really important to families, kids being cooped up, and now we're finally getting out on the fields. But these are the requirements in order to be at a spectator sport outside. And I'm hoping that people, it's never enough, but it's a start. So we'll keep on moving forward. Next slide, please. I wanted to touch on the rental relief update. We are told that from the state that we should be seeing a release of the actual application this week. So if you go to the application, if you go to recoverslo.org and and you'll see a place about rent relief, you click on that, it will take you then to the portal into the state of California. And I know that our local partners, for example, have been doing training all weekend with their staff and to be able to support. So once you plug into the state portal, it will then direct you back, if you need support, to our local partners, which are, I believe, 5 Cities Homeless Center and the SLO and United Way. I don't know if it's SLO. They said yes, and I don't know if they got the certification from the state, but also Salvation Army. So whoever's been approved at this point should be back on when you put in our area code, how they're directing people that need support. But everything can just go through the state application if it's actually up. There's a lot of controversy whether or not that thing's going to get launched at the day that it says it's going to be, which it was going to be today. So, but they got it as the week. So if it's not today, it should be coming soon. Next slide. So you had asked me, Bettina, to talk a little bit about what happened last week at the IWMA and the ongoing controversy regarding the ban on polystyrene and expanded polystyrene. We at the IWMA in the last session last year with the board passed a ban on P6 plastic, and that encompasses a wide range of polystyrene, expanded polystyrene items beyond the food takeout stuff, which is really what most of the cities have. Is 180 cities, including 5 of our 7 cities here in SLO County, actually have a ban on, I'm just going to use the word styrofoam, and so on takeout stuff. It's a narrower band of what has been approved, as opposed to this P6 entire category, which is what IWMA had passed. The pushback and where we didn't have the votes on putting out the bigger ban is the fact that some of the board members feel that we should only be doing state mandated kind of legislation, implementation of ordinances that come down through the state, because it is, again, much more expanded. It's things including the way that we ship our wine out of this county. It's things about how we pack other items way beyond just the takeout. There's those of us who understand that and have been trying to say, okay, well, let's at least do this smaller takeout version of a ban, an ordinance that really does have the styrofoam cups and clamshells, and particularly while most of the South County cities, all of the South County cities have that kind of a ban, we don't have anything at the coast, and that's the area that I cover, and I think coast is very important. So the unincorporated area is of concern, and we don't have anything for them. And the pushback is the feeling like we don't want to be mandated. We want only to be mandated on things that come down from state legislation. We should not tell our cities what they do and what they don't do. So that's kind of where the rub is, and I hope that that's being explained. It's not over though. The hearing on April 4th will actually have the ban. What we voted on this past week was, some of us said, no, we didn't want to repeal it. And then the other one said, yes, we're going to repeal it. So now that they won that part, now we'll go to this hearing where it actually is repealed. That's a mouthful, huh? You had asked me about county offices, and we're telling you it is quiet, and we do not see any return of the majority of the workforce until sometime in the summer, is what I've been told at this point, unless there's some rapid recovery that really shows the numbers are at a place where everybody can gather again. I think that we're all hoping to get people back in office and get some activity around here where we're collaborating face to face and in conferences and et cetera. But I think realistically, we're talking somewhere in the July timeframe.
Great. That's really helpful just for us to understand, as that foot traffic really affects us quite a bit in our downtown businesses. Yeah, I know it does. And I really thank you for allowing me to share what's going on here. I want to go back on one piece, and I don't want to take too much time, but it's a personal piece for me. And, I'm glad we're seeing less COVID, but 2 weeks ago in my hometown in Illinois, we had a 48-year-old friend of the family, healthy, young, strapping dad, farm boy, come down with COVID. And when he came home and out of the hospital, his wife detected that something was just not right. And he was kind of roaming around the house and just lost. And this is I can't explain Ben Price other than that he was a big, strapping, good-looking guy that owned a farm equipment company, and just what you would think about when you think about a healthy man. And it turns out that in the morning after he had gotten home, he took his life, and they have diagnosed it to be at this point something called COVID psychosis, which is a very little known phenomenon that has happened. And it turns out his wife has gone national, trying to go national with this, because what she began to discover is that when people talk about this fog of people coming home with the COVID fog, that there's actually this crossing the brain barrier, oxygen, blood kind of thing that can happen. And more people than we had known actually come to a psychotic kind of a place. And so, my reason of sharing this with you is that sometimes people come home and they think, well, they're just depressed or they're just this or something. But really, if there's anybody that you know of that is showing some kind of signs of really odd behavior, and that they otherwise have been given a clean bill of health, and what's wrong, then it's something to be aware of, because we lost a real good citizen in our town and a great person and family man. So just an awareness. Thank you. I'm sorry for your loss. And I think at this point, we all know somebody who has either really lost significant chunks of time or their lives to this disease. And while we're all looking at the fact that it's been 1 year, but it is still novel, And there's so much that we still don't know about the virus and how it will affect us long term. So we have to stay vigilant and maintain our safety. So
yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you.
yeah, and I would also just echo that and say that, you know, it's kind of shocking to think about how I know I personally look at the daily numbers and I think, oh my gosh, the numbers are so low, and they're where we were when we were having a surge in the summer. So our perspective changes, you know, depending on what we've just gone through.
Yeah.
I do want to end on a slightly upbeat note, though, and say
Please.
that after I got the news that restaurant workers were eligible for vaccinations last week, I literally ran through downtown and had this kind of like George Bailey, "It's a Wonderful Life" moment. And I just got to tell a couple of people. I only went to a few places, but I just made eye contact with, you know, the hostesses at a couple of restaurants. They said, "You're eligible," and it was so joyous and so great. So
that is a great note to end on, Bettina. And I am so happy that people are getting, I mean, the teachers, and then of course the workers at the restaurants, and all of the folks that can actually get out there and feel safe while they're in their workspace. And then, you know, the rest of us will get there, right? I mean, we just have to wait our turn, but it's happening. So I'm waiting mine, and I know that whatever comes and whatever kind of vaccine I get, I'll take it. So, okay. Thank
definitely.
you.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have from the city of San Luis Obispo, Molly Kano. Good morning, Molly. How are you today?
Good morning, Bettina. Thank you, everyone. Glad to be here, filling in for Lee Johnson this morning. But I have a few updates to share with you all. First, our Buy Local Bonus program. I'm sure you're all very aware of Buy Local Bonus at this point. But we are in the final stretch for Buy Local Bonus. So last call, and one of the things that we're actually rolling out starting today, backed by popular demand, the bonus. And so spread the word for every $100 that is spent at local restaurant, retail, wellness business. Those receipts can be turned in to receive not just one, but actually 2 gift cards now. So while supplies last, so gather up your receipts, spread the word to your clients and customers, and let's keep this, let's give a reason to spend those stimulus dollars and keep that economic wheel turning. So far, the program has been fantastic. We have over 140 businesses participating in the form of having been a part of the business buy-in, where they have gift cards that are available. There have been over 2,500 shoppers that have participated as well, which represents just over $430,000 in local spending directly associated with this program. So it has been phenomenal, and we're ready to kind of give it this last call push to get this next set of gift cards out and keep the wheels spinning on it. Couple other updates in terms of the activations in Mission Plaza. And so we've gone through a little bit of a transition with the activations. You all know how wonderful they were through the holiday season and had so much popularity and interest that the city, in partnership with Downtown SLO, committed to continuing those and have been on a rotation through kind of the various holidays. Right now, there is currently SLO Lucky, that celebrates kind of the lucky parts of SLO, but also as a nod to St. Patrick's Day. That program has continued to be so successful that actually our promotional coordinating committee at the city has taken on the helps to support that and to continue that through August. So starting next month in April, you'll be hearing us refer to that program as Plaza Pop-Ups. And each month from April through August, we will be featuring a different nonprofit partner that will have the opportunity to partner with the city, with our activation contractors over at Carson Butler, with the chamber to help with some of the promotional aspects, and of course Downtown SLO to help us get the word out as well. And so each month we will have a new downtown activation and a nonprofit that will be partnered with us on that. And that funding is coming through grant funding to help those nonprofits do those activations. And this is the reallocation of some of our modified grants and aid funding through the Promotional Coordinating Committee. So hats off to them for taking a look at this new approach and continuing that positive energy and vibrancy in Mission Plaza. Major city goal work continues to still be underway. I think you all are up to speed on that, but council has adopted 4 major city goals for the next financial plan. Those include economic recovery, resiliency, and fiscal sustainability, diversity, equity, and inclusion, housing and homelessness, and then the 4th one, climate action, open space, and sustainable transportation. So work plans are currently underway right now internally at the city. And as you can imagine, within many of these goals is really cross-departmental and cross-programs. And so lots of folks participating in each one of these goals to be able to put together really solid work plans to bring to council. That will be the draft work plans will go to council on April 20th. And starting to kind of set the stage as we move further into the budget process. And of course, the budget will be rounded out in June. So that's where we are with those. And then last but not least, a couple of things. Tomorrow evening, the city council, there will be a city council meeting tomorrow evening. Of course, you can join virtually. And I can drop in all that information if you'd like to be able to access that and watch either through YouTube or through the links on the city's website. It will be a 5:30 start time, so there's lots of business items going on, lots of items going on the council agendas, and so many of the upcoming meetings will be early start times. So 5:30 is when the meeting will start tomorrow. One item of significance for all of you and for Downtown SLO, item 10, which is taking a look at extending, as recommended from staff, to extend the life of the discretionary approvals, including the Open SLO pilot program. And so that item will be going to council tomorrow night, item 10. And what's being recommended there is the program Open SLO had been scheduled to sunset in June of 21, so coming up in June. However, this recommendation before City Council is actually to grant that extension to take it through the end of this calendar year or 80 days following the termination of the city's COVID-19 emergency declaration, whichever comes later. And so this gives the ability to continue to have that Open SLO pilot program, including the parklets and all of those, the activations in Mission Plaza, those types of experiences, to be able to continue either through the end of the calendar year or 100 days after the emergency declaration has been lifted. So those are a few updates for you.
Great, thank you, Molly. Appreciate that update. For that last item you mentioned, that's an actual item on the agenda. It's not on the consent agenda.
It is. It's item number 10, and I believe it is under the consent agenda.
Okay.
But it will be. So let me pop in. I can pop in a link to the City Council agenda so everyone can take a look at that.
Great, thank you. And really congratulations on the buy local bonus. That's been such a wonderful, wonderful program. And I may have missed it. Somebody was texting me. But when is the actual date of the last day of the buy local bonus?
So we're doing while supplies last right now. So we've got, we're doing the bonus, which will take us through the end of the gift cards that we have available at this point in time. Then we'll be sunsetting it and kind of taking a look at the program to see, as things have changed, how to bring the program back in a new way at a different time. So there's not a final deadline, but get your gift cards or get your receipts in soon. Because we do expect, buy local bonus the first time was extremely popular, and now we've got it open until we go through the remaining gift cards. So
great, thanks for that clarification. Very cool, and also just a huge thanks for the support of Mission Plaza. It looks so good. It's just so gratifying to see that beautiful public space become even more of a centerpiece for our downtown. So really exciting to see what will happen in April and beyond.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Molly. And up next, we have Jim D'Antona from the SLO Chamber. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good morning, Bettina. Great to see you and see everyone. Want to welcome everybody to our next, the big week ahead. And, there's a lot of great things happening. Obviously, we're seeing the vaccinations move. We're seeing the economic stimulus package move. So again, the light at the end of the tunnel seems to be coming. So we're certainly excited. We're starting just real quick. We'll kick off this Wednesday at 5:30, the Chamber hosting our virtual mixer. And obviously we'd love you to join. It's we've had a lot of fun in these virtual mixers because we do get into those small group rooms rather than, 200 people trying to talk over themselves, talk over each other. And obviously we'd love to have you come join us this Wednesday. Our virtual host, we have a virtual host each time, is the Dignified Hope Care. And so I'll drop that link in there if you want to register and get the link to join us over there. Additionally, obviously some great news for our bars and our breweries and distilleries who are now allowed to be open without serving food. Bars are not allowed to be open without serving food, but the breweries and distilleries are, as of Saturday, allowed. Breweries and distilleries can now operate in the current tier. Even more exciting coming up, and I know Bettina, you talked about this before, was the idea around the live performances coming up soon, April 1st. They will be able to operate in a limited capacity, but a capacity outdoors. So Patty, Kevin, know you're here. Very much looking forward to SLO Rep, what you guys are doing out there. That will be an exciting piece to bring back and get going in our community. They've done so much to, get to this point. We're really excited about our live performances coming back on April 1st. And so you can certainly find all of those things over on the SLO Chamber website if you want to see all the modifications and pieces that have that there. And then obviously the biggest news was the American Rescue Plan, or as Bettina, the ARP. So now you can have EIDL, you can have PPP, you can have ARP, you can have all sorts of wonderful things. And so we've been spending some time breaking that down and trying to figure out all the pieces that are going into it. Obviously, it is a gigantic piece of legislation with so many different pieces involved in it. What I'll do here is drop in here was Congressman Carvajal's breakdown, which lists an inordinate amount of things that are in it. But obviously the biggest pieces for us is obviously looking at how this have impacted small businesses and how that bill focuses on augmenting existing programs with about $7.25 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program. Again, not fully subscribed yet, even from the last one, but this puts even more money there for folks to try and get those grant dollars through that way. Well, loan dollars until you convert it and get those forgiveness on it. And then $15 billion for businesses that applied for an EIDL loan back in 2020, but didn't get that full amount when you got that grant, that $10,000 grant. They're backfilling all of that to try and, make those whole. So that, again, another really interesting piece to know if you applied for that EIDL loan, you didn't get the full amount, that is now coming back and should give you some opportunities. It's great to see in this bill that restaurants and bars will see a $25 billion in dedicated support. A quarter of which is specifically targeted to those smaller establishments that had less than $500,000 in revenue in 2019. So really trying to get at those who've been impacted the most during this time. but talking about what we talked about a little bit before, there's also a $1.25 billion for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program for our performing arts sector. So again, money in there to help those folks who have been suffering. And then rounding out the industry-specific assistance, the bill allocates about $8 billion for airports. So we'll assume our airport will be part of that. $3 billion to support the aerospace manufacturing industry, and another $15 billion to support workers in the airline industry as a whole. So again, those folks, this bill targets that. Obviously, the biggest news was what Bettina talked about a little bit, is those stimulus checks going out to individuals. If you make, under $75,000 or less, or $150,000 as a married couple, you can get the full $1,400 stimulus, and then it phases out up to $80,000 for an individual, $160,000 for a couple. And then there's additional monies if you have dependent children, and for each independent child. So all of those things will be a part of that. And in addition, they're even giving out, there's another $250 for each child as a monthly payment for a child that's between 6 and 17, and then $300 for a child that's under age 6. Deals with childcare, helping you deal with some of those costs or resources. So a lot of economic stimulus flowing into the economy, which we think is great and will be good for our business community, but also those folks who have been waiting for this, for their own personal needs. So there's a lot in this, but we've been kind of digging through it. Obviously, the SBA will be one of the pipelines. Our local banks obviously will be the other pipeline on some of these. Carl, yes, I know, sorry. And then, but as more of this comes out and we find the venues and avenues that all of these are going to go to, we will be putting together more and more information to share out with everyone. And that's all I have for today.
Great, thanks, Jim. That was a really helpful deep dive. I have a question for you about the childcare payment. That's a program that only lasts for a certain amount of time, right? I know there's been some discussion about that.
Yeah, the first payment is supposed to be that you're supposed to get is I think June 1st, maybe July 1st. And then by the end of the year, it's supposed to drop off. But I know it's something that there are groups fighting to keep on as a permanent thing. But yes, this is a short-term, 6-month pilot program. Well, it's not really a pilot program in such that it would just be a short-term approval. Though I know Congress is looking at that, making this potentially a long-term program.
Got it. Okay. And are the income thresholds still in place for that, or is that just anybody who has a child?
No, from what I can tell from the language in it, it is subject to some of those income thresholds. Okay. It's trying to see if I can find it in the line item here on Congressman Carvajal's list here, but I'm pretty sure all of those thresholds stay in order to get this current bill passed.
Got it. Okay. And then I had another question, or maybe clarification. Well, what is clarification about the performances resuming? My interpretation of the new guidance for outdoor performance is that it can only take place starting April 1st in venues with fixed seating.
So the way I had heard it was it had to be spaced seating outside, but maybe from, I'm trying to find it on this list here, their modification.
Maybe they clarified it on Friday, but that was a point where I thought, okay, well, who is even eligible for that, right? We have
right. Well, you would
the stadium at Cal Poly, and then we have Dana Robles and Paso,
because those would be outside and fixed seating, right? As opposed to just outside. And potentially, I know the folks at the city were working closely to help our outdoor venues potentially comply with some of those rules or be able to open up to fit into those regulations. But I know that's an ongoing kind of conversation right now.
Got it. Okay. Well, thanks so much. Good to see you as always, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the mixer. All right, lots of good information we're having this morning. Do want to remind everybody that we are going to be programming the Mayflower Initiative again in 2021. This was a great program that we started in 2020 during the first shutdown, and we're going to be bringing it back this year. We have a number of artists. I think we have 25 or so artists who've signed up already to participate, and we're now asking businesses and property owners to sign up. We're really looking for some good engagement, especially from some of those property owners who may have some untenanted spaces in the downtown. And we'll also be partnering with the City of SLO and the Promotional Coordinating Committee on an activation for Mission Plaza that will be around the Mayflower program. So really excited about this as we move through the various stages of reopening and trying to bring a little bit of brightness and joy in May. And we do, of course, have that SLO Lucky activation in Mission Plaza. It's so fun to see. The Downtown Dine Out program is open daily, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., weather permitting. There were a couple of days last week where it was a little dodgy, so no umbrellas were put out, as those are sun umbrellas, not rain umbrellas. But we love to see people using Mission Plaza, not just as a place to gather and eat their takeout, but also to have, you know, a coffee meeting or maybe catch up with a friend at a safe distance. And the tables and chairs have been a great activation to our public space downtown. And with that, I would love to open it up if anybody has any questions. We're always open to any questions that you might have. And if there are no questions, we will look forward to seeing you next week at our meeting, because we love meetings. And we will see you next on March 22nd. That is, I guess, the first day of spring. So we'll look forward to that. Enjoy your daylight savings time. Enjoy your Ides of March. May it go smoothly. And thank you to everybody for attending and for your hard work keeping our downtown vibrant. And we appreciate you.